What a difference a day makes. Lewis Hamilton took all the headlines on Friday, but it's Oscar Piastri who is qualified on pole position for the first time for the Chinese Grand Prix. I've got Tim Kraaij here with me, who has been covering all the action from all the Paddock sources. What a result. When they said Piastri was the first time he's got pole position, I was surprised because he's just been on top of his game the last year, but this is the actual first time he's got a full pole position. What did you make of today's qualifying, Tim?
Yeah, he had a couple of sprint poles as well, so that's really where the confusion is, because it feels like he's already done it. But yeah, it was quite a special moment for him. He did a very proper session in the last part of qualifying where Lando didn't seem to get the lap together. He was talking about his own mistakes afterwards in the presser as well. Piastri put it all together. His first lap was already good, but the second lap even better this time from the first lap, and it was enough for pole. With George, of course, being a very nice second. A very, very good performance of Piastri after doing a good performance in the sprint race in the morning already as well, becoming second and passing Max in the race.
Is this the start of, well, the restart, I suppose, of McLaren getting that little bit of advantage that we've been speaking about? Because we saw that it looked like they'd be much further ahead in Australia. Rain cancelled that. We thought they'd be ahead in China, and then the Ferrari-Hamilton thing happened. What were they saying in that press conference?
Yeah, the sound was similar after qualifying, that they think they have the best car, and they still believe they have the best car, but they don't seem to get the lap together when it matters in Q3. And that was the same now, because in Q2 they looked very good. They looked a massive step apart of the rest, but then in the last part of qualifying they couldn't get it all together, especially not Lando. But that's something that you hear from more drivers as well, because George is saying somewhat similar. Max is saying similar things. Yeah, they're all on the edge of what these cars with these wrecks are capable of. And it seems like the cars are getting more difficult to drive, and especially in combination with the tires, to get them in a good window to make a good qualifying lap. You saw it with George as well. His first lap wasn't all there. For the second lap, he said in the presser, by going very, very slow in my out lap, and then had a magnificent run to split the two McLarens in the qualifying, of course.
You mentioned Mercedes, you mentioned Max Verstappen, and you didn't mention Lewis Hamilton, who was at the front. He got sprint qualifying pole position, then he got the sprint race win, and then he just fizzled out a little bit. The Ferraris looked yesterday like they would be maybe competing with the McLarens. They weren't today in qualifying for the race.
It seems like Ferrari don't really understand where it has gone wrong. Of course, you can make changes in between sprint race and qualifying, but Lewis didn't seem to be quite that happy with the changes that the team made. The balance wasn't all there for him, like Charles has had for the whole weekend. So yeah, what they've done is not clear at the moment, but yeah, it has not gone in a good direction. Maybe for the race they still have a good car, because in the sprint race this morning Ferrari seemed very good. Lewis, of course, ran away with it, but also Leclerc had a good pace in the race, so they seem to be pretty good in terms of tire management, so maybe that could help them out tomorrow.
So do we think it's a strategic gamble maybe from Ferrari that they might be going for a race pace rather than single lap?
Yeah, it could be. It is, of course, a completely new tarmac, so that is really something teams need to figure out, and that's why a sprint race and a sprint qualifying is very good for teams to get proper data for the real qualifying and the real race. Lando and Oscar spoke about it afterwards in the presser, that they didn't do a proper thing in terms of run plan yesterday during the sprint qualifying, and today they did it better with two proper runs. They had a longer qualifying, of course, and did two proper runs. I think some teams it helps, and like a Max and a Lewis who, maybe outperformed their car in sprint qualifying on Friday, with all the others catching up, knowing more what they can do with the setup. Yeah, I think they lose a little bit of terrain over there. But yeah, even Max was still quite close to Oscar's time. So it's all very tight, and yeah, it could go either way still on Sunday.
Something that's not so tight is the gulf between Max Verstappen and Liam Lawson. The pressure's already mounting. How much time has Liam got at Red Bull to prove himself?
His quote after the race was, "I don't have much time." And that's very interesting. It's only a second race, and you would say that you would give a rookie time. But Red Bull is Red Bull, and Red Bull gives a lot of talents, a lot of chances, but they're also very ruthless. And that's something that looms over his head as well. And Helmut, after the session, was asked about the situation. And Helmut could have said, no, we give him time, and he is still young, and he needs time to embed in the team. But his answer was F1 is a competitive sport. We've seen similar trends with the likes of Pierre Gasly, with Alexander Albon, and also, of course, Sergio Perez. And Sergio got a lot of time, but he was relatively close to Max in qualifying. It was 3 to 4 tenths. And now the field has tightened up, and you need to be in those 3 to 4 tenths, like an Antonelli does, like a Piastri does, like even a Doohan does. All those guys are very close to their teammate, and Lawson is not. The gap is almost a second. There is no excuse for that in a Red Bull car.
Is some of the pressure on Liam Lawson going to be coming from the pace that the Racing Bulls are demonstrating? We had Yuki Tsunoda, who didn't get promoted. We've now got Isaac Hadjar, who's been promoted. Do you think that's going to be putting the pressure on Lawson?
Yeah, it doesn't help, of course, because Isaac did a little bit of redemption day today in qualifying. Tomorrow there are the points, and if he puts it in a wall again after the formation lap, it's not so much of a redemption. But did a very good qualifying. Same for Yuki, who did an incredible sprint race as well to score already some points for Racing Bulls. So that is not helping Liam Lawson's case as well. And a lot of questions will be asked whether Red Bull made a good choice to get Checo Perez out of the seat, something that Ted Kravitz asked Christian Horner after the session as well. Christian avoided, of course, that question. But also, why promote Liam and not Yuki? And they went both side to side again last year as teammates. Yuki was the quicker one. But it's a little bit harsh for a driver like Liam as well, because gets put in that car in 2023. In 2024, he wasn't good enough by Red Bull standards to get a full-time seat for Racing Bulls or whatever it was called back then. So he wasn't good enough for a full-time seat for the small team in those 2 years. And then suddenly, after 2 small spells within Racing Bulls, he now has to prove himself in Red Bull Racing, where he wasn't good enough for Racing Bulls a year earlier on. So it is quite a big task.
It's not working out very well for Minardi, Scuderia Toro Rosso, VCARB, Reach the Cash App, Red Bull, whatever they're called. But like you said, though, Tim, the points are scored tomorrow, and that's when I'll be speaking to you next to go through everything that happens in the Chinese Grand Prix. And we could be here with a Liam Lawson victory, and everyone's saying he's the next Max Verstappen. So you just never know.